Welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Shayantani Pal, Department of Ancient Indian History and Culture, University of Calcutta. Today we are going to discuss about the Indian polity, and the name of this module is Polity in Early Bengal. So here are our learning objectives. We should begin our study with the study of the regional polities. Why the study of regional polities are important to form a background of Indian polity in general. Then we shall learn about early Bengal, and we should study the map and introduce the region of our study. Then the process of state formation in early Bengal. This has been regarded as a process of secondary state formation. So we would analyze what is the process of secondary state formation. Then the earliest evidence come from an inscription in the Shushunia Hill at Bakura. I will show you and analyze the content of the inscription. Then we will move on to another sub-region. This concept of sub-region I will discuss in the next slides. Then we shall discuss the development of polity in different sub-regions of Bengal, like Banga, the central delta, then Varendra or North Bengal, then rise of the Gowda as a regional power, then southeastern Bengal, which is which becomes very important as a sub-region from the Gupta period onwards. So we have to study the sub-regional polity of southeastern Bengal separately. Then we would discuss about the regional powers, the Palas, the Chandras and the Senas. Then we will end our discussion on Bengal polity. To begin with, some introduction regarding the study of regional polities. When did this interest in the study of regional polities grew up? The study of regional polity in early medieval India has become a subject of much interest among the present historians. Earlier, when the nationalist historians used to work, they used to study the polities of different regions of India as a whole. So K.P. Jaiswal, who is one of the foremost among the nationalist historians, he wrote a book on Hindu polity in 1924. So it was a general study on different polities of early India. So at a later period, the study of regional polities became current. In the latter part of the 20th century, with the introduction of the model of feudal polity, which was introduced by the Marxist historians like D.D. Kosambi, R.S. Sharma, the model of feudal polity into early Indian history, when this was introduced, the study of regional polities came to be very significant. Still later, the interest in the study of regional polities are being continued in order to understand the process of the formation of regional societies throughout India in the 10th century period. Now this 10th century period, the post 10th century period, is very important in the formation of regional societies. So the regional polities play a great part in the formation of regional societies. So now we shall do a case study on the formation of polity and the development of polity in early Bengal. So what is early Bengal? Now see, early Bengal has no separate connotation, because when we study the period from the 5th to the 13th century, there was no Bengal. Bengal was not a homogeneous entity. The name of Bengal, even it did not exist then. So early Bengal broadly referred to the Bengal Delta comprising present West Bengal and Bangladesh, and it was not a homogeneous unit in our period of study. It was B.M. Morrison who pointed to the existence of 4 sub-regions in early Bengal. Now this concept of B.M. Morrison regarding the sub-regions of Bengal, early Bengal, is very influential, and they have played a very dominant role. They have influenced the subsequent writers on early Bengal. So to begin with the early Bengal polity, we should first analyze and discuss the concept of sub-regions as introduced by B.M. Morrison. So here you can see a map of undivided Bengal. Now Bengal has been divided into the independent country of Bangladesh and the district of West Bengal and the state of West Bengal. So this is the undivided map of Bengal belongs to the pre-1947 period. Here you can see a combined map of the Bengal Delta comprising Bangladesh and West Bengal. Now the concept of 4 subregions of early Bengal as introduced by B.M. Morrison. B.M. Morrison said that the whole of Bengal Delta is not a homogeneous unit and it can be divided into 4 subregions. On basis of what? B.M. Morrison actually studied all the land grants beginning from the 5th century. Land grants actually begin in Bengal from the 5th century and it continued up to the 13th century. He analyzed all these land grants and he also studied where from these land grants were issued. So the political centers. So he traced there were 4 subregions with 4 political centers which operated at different periods throughout these centuries from the 5th to the 13th centuries. Moreover, he also argued that not only political centers, these subregions also had separate cultural entities. So the name of his book was Political Centers and Cultural Regions in Early Bengal. So let us see what are the 4 subregions of Early Bengal. The first is called the Bhagirathi Hooghly area, which is the western part of the Bengal Delta, and the only political center from which land grants were issued were Karnasuvarna. Now this Karnasuvarna is in the Murshidabad district and it became famous as the capital of Shashanka. Then the next sub-region is called Varendra, or it means the northern part of the Bengal Delta. Its administrative unit was Punravardhana Bhukti. This name Punravardhana Bhukti actually appears in the inscriptions of the Guptas, while the name Varendra was more popular in later period, in the Pala period. So it had 2 political centers, one is called the Kotivarsha and the other is called the Panchanagari. Then the third sub-region is the Central Delta. Central Delta means it is surrounded by the Ganga on the one side and the Brahma Meghna river on the other side. So this is the central part of the Bengal Delta, and here the political center was Vikramapura, but Vikramapura, we get reference to the Vikramapura from a very late period beginning from the Senas in early Bengal in the post 10th century period. So Vikramapura was not in existence in the early period in the 5th or 6th century. Then the last sub-region, this is called Samatata. It appears earliest in the 4th century inscription of Samudragupta, which is very famous, the Allahabad pillar inscription of Samudragupta. And this Samatata now comprises the district of Kumilla and Noakhali in Bangladesh, and also most probably the Chittagong in Bangladesh. Although at a later period, Chittagong forms a separate kingdom known as Harikela from the 7th century. Still, the Samatata and Harikela were earlier, they formed a single sub-region. So this is called the sub-region of southeastern Bengal. Here you can see a map drawn by Morrison. This shows the 4 sub-regions of the Bengal Delta, the Varendra, Punravardhana Bhukti, Samatata and Vanga, which I have already discussed. Now the process of state formation in early Bengal has been regarded as a process of secondary state formation. What does it mean? The secondary state formation actually means that the inspiration for state formation came from a different center. What was that center? In the case of Bengal, it is actually Magadha with its capital at Pataliputra. Now Pataliputra in South Bihar, state formation took place at a very early period. From 6th century BC, we find several Mahajanapadas and one of them was Magadha. And in 4th century BC, we again find that Magadha formed the most dominant power in the Ganges Delta. So probably from this Magadha, the inspiration of state formation came into Bengal. So this has been regarded as a process of secondary state formation, since this drew its inspiration from Magadha. Now the historical process of state formation and agrarian expansion are interconnected and they manifest themselves as secondary state formation. This was again accompanied by expansion of sedentary agrarian society, because if you do not have the support from agriculture, if you do not have the taxes, the state formation, the process of state formation would not happen. So Magadha in South Bihar was the center from which influence of such process came into Bengal. This process of secondary state formation in early Bengal has been traced from the 5th century onwards, but please remember that in different sub-regions it developed independently and it had several aspects of development, since the agrarian background, the geographical background of these 4 sub-regions actually varied. So the process of state formation actually varied in these 4 sub-regions. Now, the earliest evidence of the formation of a monarchical polity in early Bengal. This comes from a very isolated area, which is the Shushunia Hill in the Bankura district of West Bengal. I regard it as an isolated area since we have some evidences, antiquities of prehistoric period from the Shushunia Hill. Then in the early historic period, we do not have any other evidence from this Shushunia Hill. Even after the inscription I will discuss, that is a 4th century inscription, after that we do not have any other evidence from the Shushunia Hill. So only on the basis of a single evidence, that is the Shushunia rock inscription of Chandravarman, we can trace the development of a monarchical polity in Bengal. This is a 2-line Sanskrit inscription and it belongs to the 4th century, and it records that the cave is donated to Chakraswami. Who is Chakraswami? Chakraswami is an aspect of Vishnu, God Vishnu. So the cave was donated to Chakraswami by Maharaja Chandravarman, who is the son of Maharaja Singhavarman, and he calls his kingdom as Pushkarana. Now this use of the title Maharaja, this is very important, because the title Maharaja originally derived from the Greek title Basileos Basileon. This was used by the Guptas and their contemporaries. So this type of title became very current during the Guptas. So it is probably from the Guptas that Chandravarman borrowed this title. This is a picture of the Shushunia Hill in Bankura, and below you can see the Shushunia Hill inscription in 2 lines, and on the top of the inscription you can see the representation of Chakra, which actually represents God Vishnu. So Chakravarman dedicated this cave in honor of God Vishnu. Now there is another thing, from where did he gain this concept of Vishnu, because Vishnu is a major Brahmanical deity, and please remember that Guptas were Parama Vaishnavas, they called them Parama Bhagavatas. So it is most probably from the Guptas that Chandravarman, a local ruler of Shushunia Hill, probably got the inspiration of this worship of Vishnu from the Guptas. So here we can trace the influence of the Guptas both in the formation of polity as well as religion in the Shushunia Hill area. Now we would study another sub-region, which is Vanga, the central delta, in the 6th century. In the 6th century, we have several inscriptions from the central part of the Bengal delta. Earlier, we have the Vangas as a collective unity who appear in the Bodhayana Dharma Sutra, which belongs to the 3rd to the 2nd centuries BCE, the Raghuvangsha of Kalidasa, and in the Mehrauli iron pillar inscription, a very famous inscription in Delhi. It belongs to King Chandra of the 5th century. So in this text and inscriptions, the Vangas appear as a collective unity. There is no reference to the name of the king of Vanga. So all these references suggest the existence of the social organization. Now the formation of monarchical polity in the Vanga sub-region may be seen in the 6th century on the basis of some inscriptions. The central part of the Bengal delta, Vanga, was incorporated into the kingdom of a group of rulers in the 6th century. These rulers are called Dvadosaditya, Dharmaditya, Gopo Chandra and Samachara Deva, who issued land grants in the Faridpur region of Bengal. The Faridpur is now presently a district in the central part of Bangladesh, just near Dhaka. Their kingdom was known as Varaka Mandala. Now, the administrative hierarchy that appears, I mean the administrative ranking, first the Maharaja Dhiraja, then his subordinate, then his subordinate. So this is the administrative hierarchy that appears in these charters, is similar to those appearing in the Gupta charters from North Bengal dated in the 5th-6th century. So here the influence is clear that a group of rulers in the 5th-6th century, Vanga, they derived the model for their administration from the Guptas. At the top was the king. He is described as Maharaja Dhiraja. Next to him is the administrator, who is comparable to the administrators of Bhukti or province in the Gupta charters. Now, the Gupta polity in Punravardhana. This belongs to an earlier period than it begins from the 5th century. There are several offices are called Adhikaranas of different levels under the Guptas. Some of them were rural body of a panchayat type. These were called the Gramashtakuladhikaranas. The Gramashtakuladhikaranas means the 8 most prominent families, the 8 kulas actually formed this rural body, and they used to handle the system of land business in this area, in their villages. So they were suitable for the rural areas with prominent residents of the villages like the Kutumbins and the Mahattaras. The Kutumbins were actually wealthy peasants and the Mahattaras were actually the village elders. So they used to play a very prominent role in this Gram Panchayat type rural bodies. Then there are some other type of bodies which are functioned at the level of Vithi. Now what is Vithi? Vithi is actually a group of villages. So these Adhikaranas were actually called the Vithi Adhikaranas, and they used to function over a group of villages. In Punravardhana Bhukti, which is the province of Punravardhana, the governor or the Kumaramatya, the governor had the title Kumaramatya of Koti Varsha Vishaya. Now this Koti Varsha Vishaya is actually the center of Punravardhana Bhukti, the headquarter of this Bhukti. The governor of this Vishaya was always appointed by the governor of Bhukti, who again was appointed by the emperor. So this in this example, we can clearly see how the central administration was trying to control the administration of the Bhukti, because the emperor, the Gupta emperor, is directly appointing the governor of the Bhukti, and the governor of the Bhukti actually in his turn he appoints the governor of the Vishaya, and the governor of the Vishaya actually rules over the Gram Panchayats or the villages. So this is the system of administrative ranking, the hierarchy created by the Guptas to rule this part of Bengal. The Adhishtanadhikarana again means the office of the city, and these were obviously different from the rural bodies like Vithi Adhikarana or the Gramashtakula Adhikarana. The Adhishtanadhikarana of Koti Varsha had members from the mercantile community and other occupational groups. So these groups were very important in handling the land business in the urban areas. So there are differences in the organization of administrations in the rural area and the urban area. All this suggests that Punravardhana Bhukti was the core territory with an urban character, while its outlying areas had different administrative arrangements with predomination of the rural landed groups. Thus, the synthesis of the imperial model of Gupta administration with the local elements actually contributed to the formation of the earliest documented monarchical structure in a part of Bengal, that is North Bengal. Now, we move on to discuss the formation of regional polity in Bengal. In the 7th century, we have the rise of Gaura as a regional power in Bengal, and also in this period, this Gaura appears in the documents not related to Bengal. The rise of Gaura as a regional power in the late 6th and early 7th century is well attested from literary and inscriptional sources. In the Haraha inscription of Ishana Varman Maukhuri and also in the inscriptions of Bhaskara Varman, the ruler of Kamarupa, the Gauras again appear as a collective unity. There is no reference to the name of the kings of the Gaura. The earliest king of the Gaura, whose name we get, is Shashanka. In the 7th century, Shashanka was acknowledged as the lord of Gaura in the by the authors like Banabhatta, like Xuanzang, the Chinese pilgrims, and also by the rulers of Kongada. Kongada means a part of Orissa. So by these rulers, by the rulers who do not belong to Bengal, the Shashanka has been regarded as the king of Gaureshwara. Now we will move on to another sub-region, which is southeastern Bengal or Samatata, as I have already discussed that this is a very important sub-region of early Bengal. Southeastern Bengal first appears under the name Samatata in the Allahabad pillar inscription of Samudragupta in the mid 4th century. The earliest references to subordinate rulers in Bengal are found in the 2 copperplate inscriptions of Vainyagupta. Now this Vainyagupta is actually known from his land grant charter in Gunaighar. Gunaighar is a village in the Kumilla district of Bangladesh and also belongs to the Samatata sub-region Bengal. He ruled in this sub-region of Bengal in the early 6th century. Now later a new charter of Vainyagupta records an earlier grant made by Maharaja Nathachandra in 91 Gupta era. Now see, 91 Gupta era is actually 410 CE. So this charter, which was discovered very recently, this refers to the formation of monarchical polity in early Bengal as early as the 5th century. So this is a map of southeastern Bengal, the region of Samatata and Harikala. As I have already discussed, that Samatata now incorporates the districts of Kumilla and Noakhali, and Harikala incorporates the districts of Chittagong. Now we will discuss about the semi-independent chiefs of southeastern Bengal and how a hierarchical political structure developed in early Bengal under these semi-independent rulers. From the middle of the 7th century, southeastern Bengal or Samatata became the center of activity of a number of semi-independent and independent local rulers. As the state enhanced its control over rural society in the following century, the power of the subordinate rulers who constituted part of its ruling bloc also grew in proportion, and their organization into a hierarchical order proceeded under the king. These kings used the title Prapta Pancha Mahashabda. Now what is the meaning of Prapta Pancha Mahashabda? Prapta Pancha Mahashabda means one who have obtained the 5 sounds. Actually this is a military rank, and this title was used by the subordinate rulers. So this refers to the subordinate rulers. All of them were semi-independent rulers functioning in Samatata in the 7th century. So all these indicate a complex and hierarchized polity existing in Samatata. In the 2 of the records of the semi-independent chiefs, one Parameshwara or Brihat Parameshwara appears. Now who can be a Brihat Parameshwara? Only a overlord to a subordinate chief can be called a Brihat Parameshwara, but unfortunately his name is not mentioned. Then scholars have suggested that he might be the lord of Gaura or he might be the lord of Kamarupa. We do not know, but it is clear that these semi-independent chiefs actually functioned under an overlord who is called Parameshwara or Brihat Parameshwara in their record. Now the independent kings. At the beginning of 8th century in southeastern Bengal, the Devas began to rule, and Ananda Deva of this family, he assumed the epithet Vangala Mriganko. Now Vangala is actually a part of Vanga, the central part of the delta. So the Vangala Mriganka means the moon of Vangala. So he declares that he is the independent king or the moon of Vangala. Now the Chandras. The Chandras actually began to rule from the 9th-10th century onwards, and they may be called a regional ruler like the Palas, because at a time they came to control the whole of the eastern part of the delta. the Chandras created a wider power base incorporating Samotata, Vanga and the Sylhet region in the 10th century. They established their seat of power at Vikramapura in the Dhaka area of central Bengal. They entered into conflict with other two major powers of the sub-region, that is the Palas of Kamarupa and the Palas of Bengal and Bihar, which suggests that the Chandras were equally powerful like the Palas of Bengal and Bihar and also the Palas of Kamarupa. So they may be called given the status of regional rulers controlling the eastern part of the Bengal Delta. And now the Palas, who are very famous, and the formation of regional polity in early Bengal is very important under them. The regional polity of early Bengal was further strengthened under the Palas, who occupied a large part of South Bihar and North Bengal for 4 centuries, from the 8th to the 12th centuries. The Palas were more interested, however, in the politics of North India. They were not at all interested in the politics of the southeastern Bengal, but they were more interested in controlling Kannauj or Kanyakubja, which became the royal capital after Harshavardhana. So they were more interested in the politics of North India. In North Bengal or Varendra or Punravardhana, the Palas issued a series of land grants. This is the Jagjivanpur copper plate of Mahendrapala. Jagjivanpur is a village in the Malda district of West Bengal, and you can see the beautiful seal of the Palas with the Dharma Chakra and surrounded by 2 deers. The Palas were Buddhists, so they have put these images on their seals. Now the role of the subordinates under the Palas, this is very important because under the Pala rule, the subordinate rulers were firmly incorporated into the administrative apparatus as its components, as shown by the addressee of the grants, which include Raja, Rajanaka, Rajaputra, Mahasamanta and so on. Under the Palas, a range of subordinate chiefs used to function. They held titles like the Mahasamanta, the Mahasamantadhipati, the Mahasenapati, the Mahasainyapati, etc. Now there is another evidence, the Ramacharita of Sandhyakara Nandin. It refers to it was composed by the Sandhyakara Nandin, who was a court poet under Madanapala, the last ruler of the Pala kingdom. The Ramacharita refers to the subordinate chiefs who replaced Rama, who helped actually Ramapala to recover Barendri, his paternal home, from the Kaivartas, who then created some disturbances in the Pala kingdom. One commonality of these subordinates who helped Ramapala in the conquest of Barendri, these subordinate rulers was one commonality of these subordinate rulers was the service to the king, especially in military capacity. The heavy dependence of the Pala army on the service, especially in the later period, is clear from the Ramacharita. These chiefs mostly belong to the forest tracts of southwestern Bengal and Orissa, and some of them might have been tribal roots. This indicates the range of subordinates with varying backgrounds under the Palas. Now we would discuss the polity under the Senas. The Senas were the first power in early Bengal who controlled the whole Bengal Delta. It is evident from their land grants. Their land grants are distributed throughout the whole of the Bengal Delta, whereas earlier the Palas had their land grants only from the northern part of the Bengal. The Senas had their land grant distributed over the whole of the Bengal Delta. This indicates that the Senas were the first power to control the whole of the Bengal Delta, not any particular sub-region. The Senas captured power in the last quarter of the 11th century. Originally the Senas had come from the Karnataka country because they call themselves in their inscription Karnataka Kshatriyas. Vijayasena, he is the first prominent ruler among the Senas. He captured Rada. Rada is the southwestern Bengal, from which we have already discussed and evidence the Shushunia rock inscription. Vijayasena captured Rada and North Bengal. North Bengal was the stronghold of the Palas. So this capture of North Bengal from the Palas by Vijayasena actually indicates that the Pala power was actually replaced by the Senas. The Senas were the first power thus who granted land in almost all the sub-regions of Bengal, in North Bengal, Pundrabardhana Bhukti, in western and southwestern Bengal, that is Radha and Vardhamana Bhukti, the southern Bengal or Khari Mandala, and the central Bengal or Banga. Thus, the Senas may be regarded as the first power to establish their political authority throughout the Bengal Delta. This is the Deopara stone inscription of Vijayasena. It is written, as you can see, it is written in a beautiful script, very symmetrical. This is called the Gauri script. It is also called the Proto-Bengali script. So the Senas were also responsible for the introduction of the Gauri or Proto-Bengali script, which created much impression in the evolution of the Bengali script at a later period. Not only Bengali script, every scripts of Eastern India, including the Assamese script, the Oriya scripts, etc. Now, the term Pala Sena era. How far the term Pala Sena era is justified as the level of a particular period from the 8th to 12th century in early Bengal. Questions have been raised as to how far the label Pala Sena age is justified for the period between the 8th to the 13th centuries in Bengal, when the several powerful ruling lineages like the Chandras, the Varmans and the Devas were in control of the southeastern part of the delta. As I have already discussed that the Chandras were very powerful, almost equally powerful like the Senas, and they were controlling the whole of the eastern delta. So why we should omit them from the label of a period? We should, so D.C. Sarkar, who is an authority over the history of Bengal, he precisely suggested that this Pala Sena era can also be conveniently designated as either the Pala era or the Pala Sena Chandradeva era. In this regard, a recent author has expressed the view that only the identity of a specifically Sena period of history is more convenient to visualize on the basis of the geographical distribution of epigraphic records of the Sena family. The Palas have left their imprint rather in the arts of Eastern India but not in the polity of Eastern India. Now, how we can link the polity of Bengal with the contemporary early medieval polities? Were the characteristics of early medieval polities current in early Bengal? The case of Bengal studied in the present article can be compared meaningfully with those in the other regions, especially in Western India, where the deeds of the Samantas and their hierarchical formation are clearer in both inscriptional and textual evidences. So the comparative studies within Bengal and beyond, with emphasis on the power relation and its dynamism, would lead us to a better understanding of the political formation of early medieval India. So this justifies why we should study the polity of early Bengal as a separate module. Now, to summarize, in this way, the region now incorporated in West Bengal and Bangladesh had developed its own polity in the period under study. Its northern part came within the purview of the Magadhan rulers from an early period, and monarchy evolved under the influence of Magadha from the 4th century, both in the sub-regions of western part of the Bengal Delta and also in Samatata, and it was followed by a complex hierarchized polity, which is again a characteristic of early medieval polity with subordinate rulers with varying status. Thank you.